Oh, good morning. Good morning. Jackie Glass here, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the laced up legislator for the 93rd District of the House of Delegates. I don't know why I gave that because I'm sure where I'm at. I'm sure where I represent. These things I am sure of. Unfortunately, it took me a little bit because for some reason, one of the accounts, something's going on with LinkedIn. So if you're a LinkedIner, uh, and you're not seeing this, then, I have nothing to do with that. I've tried for probably 15 minutes longer than I should have. Um, 15 minutes longer than I should have to get it connected, and it is just not working. So we're going to have to work with what we got this morning. But what I am going to do this morning is we're going to talk about public education. I just want to put that at the forefront of your minds, where we are, where we stand. If you don't know, I will be leaving to go to Richmond to do the duties and responsibilities of a delegate starting January 8th. My goal, though, so for some of those of you guys who support, who want to be a part, all those good things, my goal is to have a last minute gathering / fundraiser the Sunday before I leave, just an hour and a half to put my arms around folks, to remind myself of why I do this work and why I want to keep doing it. Because there'll be them days. So put that on your calendars. I think that is January 5th. January 5th is probably going to be the day that we do that. So mark your calendars. Looking for location. It'll definitely be here. Definitely be in the city of Norfolk. But just want to pop that to you. So put in the chat for me if you have heard anything about the Federal Department of Education recently. If you've heard anything, like what have you been hearing? Or give me your emoji of how you feel about public education, right? Like what, give me either the emoji how you feel or what you think what you've heard or what you think the state of public education is right now. So Preston Uptown, if you want to send me your resume, you can send it to, I'm going to put it in the chat. And this is why like, hold on. I'm just sending. Preston said, "Delegate Glass, I'd like to work for you. Can I see my resume?" You are absolutely can. If I can't hire you, I will find someone who can, because right now it is a struggle bus. This is why I fundraise, right? I fundraise where the state doesn't pay us enough to have quality staff. I'll just say that. So much of my fundraising goes to operational costs of just keeping good staff. I am like hopeful that I'll be able to bring hopeful that I will be able to bring more people to session with me, more opportunities for folks to come and stay and be able to be a part of the process. But it is like when y'all, I know that I don't do the best of job at fundraising, but like I'm on like dire straits right now. I'm like, look, Jackie, get it together. It's a part of the job. You got dues to pay. You got people to pay. It's a part of being the leader. Unfortunately, it's not my favorite part of the work, but it is the work. So I said, either give me an emoji about how you feel about public school right now, or what have you heard? Because I know we're hearing stuff like what have you heard? Not I'm talking whether it's at the federal, the state, or the local level. What have you been interfacing with? I'm still trying to reconnect a LinkedIn, but it is to no avail. I need to just leave it alone, y'all. Right? let good enough. Take Taekwon the show sell. Oh, that's his emoji. I'm here for it. What was I trying to say? I am in a place where I'm doing a lot of learning about what's going to happen with this whole idea of government efficiency. What will be the impact of the abolition if our leadership, right? Because the thing I learned in the military is that good leadership never stays bad, nor does bad leadership. So whatever it is that we're about to go through, hopefully whatever trauma or successes or whatever that is, that it doesn't always last. So my thought process has been really about, if the federal government, and this has been one of the big talking points, if the federal government, if our incoming president decides to abolish the Department of Education, it would dramatically change how schools in Virginia and quite frankly across the country would operate. And there are some things I think I want to share with you all. And then sort of like, what is our responsibility right now? Because I know that I feel like I am engulfed in a very non-progressive conversation, and I'm not talking about politics, I'm talking about that action with my school system, and I'm trying to get people engaged, and I want them to be engaged now, and I don't want them to start getting out of hand when they see something at the federal happen, when there's stuff happen at the local level that we're not being active on and advocating for. So first of all, the Department of Education, if you don't know, and if you know this, please feel free to comment. If you got thoughts, if you've been percolating on it, please drop it in the comments, whether it's emoji or sentiment. I'm here for it. So first of all, the Department of Education helps fund schools by, that's the federal Department of Education, because we have a state Department of Education as well. So they help fund schools by providing millions of dollars for programs that support students with disabilities, students with low income, and access to affordable college. And let's just say that funding disappears, what that would mean is that Virginia would have to fill in those gaps, possibly, potentially, right? That means that the Commonwealth of Virginia would have to fill in those gaps, and that could mean already larger class sizes, fewer teachers, outdated textbooks, cuts to the arts, sports, special education programs for many students, especially the students that were impacted by I can't remember what was the de facto de jure racism, right? So think about the way our laws was set up and who was affected most by education. So right now, let's put ourselves in a mindset that if the Department of Education is gone, is Virginia in a position to fund public education? So let's go, right? Think about that. Second thing, right, to understand about the Department of Education is that the Department of Education ensures that schools meet some basic standards as it pertains to safety, quality of education. And without it, each state will have to create their own rules, right? Each state's going to have to create their own rules that could lead to big, huge, drastic differences in what kids are learning depending on where they live. And Virginia, quite frankly, might struggle to keep up with resources and consistency to make sure students have their needs. Right now, I'm hopeful to be thankful for the Department of Education and the federal departments, because Norfolk Public Schools is under a federal investigation for how they're doing the work here, because they need to be, right, for students, staff, all these different things. So what happens if we don't have that oversight in that way to look not only at our state, but at everybody's got a boss. But I do believe that there needs to be, I do believe that something has got to give with every cousin. Sean says, the cousin it says definitely nothing wrong with an audit. Nothing wrong with an audit. I love that, and that's the truth. It's nothing wrong with checks. It's nothing wrong with balances, just as long as we've set in place what it looks like to check and to balance, and that there's a very clear process by which you and me and the people in these systems are able to go about getting resolution. There is some good news, because we don't necessarily have to sit back and let these things happen, right? Virginia can prepare by strengthening local and state funding for education. We can do that, ensuring that every single child has what they need to thrive, and that To me, that means holding lawmakers accountable to prioritize schools, not just in words, but in actions, in the budget, in advocating for equitable funding so that no school gets left behind. And I believe that is happening here in our city. And so as we sort of rally as a community, I think that it's we pull ourselves together, parents, teachers, students, community members, to push for solutions. We have to create partnerships, right? Like, and that's what I'm thinking about. What partnerships would be phenomenal, both in the community, in connections with the schools, to do better by our little citizens and our educators. So businesses, nonprofits, our local governments, to invest in schools and develop innovative programs that fill in the gaps. Reality. Let me see. I see some comments, and thank you for comments. Juan the Sev says, yeah, my lady's a teacher and she pays for most of her classroom supplies. That's real. We're already in a position where we're underfunding, right? And just imagine if the federal government stops that funding. Let me do this. Somebody would beat me up if they saw my my staff might, or maybe it's just me. Yeah. And she pays for most of the supplies. That, that is an unfortunate truth, that educators are paying for their supplies. Taekwon, there is this thing called like a teacher wish list where she can put all of the supplies she needs and people can just come and pay for them. So if she ever finds herself, I'm going to look it up, or you can Google it, where teachers and she may already know this, so that people in the community can help support her in the classroom. So I'm just making that as a suggestion for both Taekwon the chef on Instagram, as well as for anyone who's adjacent to an educator that may be coming out of pocket for supplies. The cousin it, Jean-Paul, says we can make progress when orgs such as HRV are taking Virginia designated funds to Hampton Roads are taking designated funds out of our state. So HRV, so what Cousin It is talking about is there is an organization called Hampton Road Ventures that is sort of it is a private funding source for, it's supposed to be in conjunction with NHRA, Norfolk's a housing redevelopment arm. And when I first got elected, I put in a bill to stop them from doing just that. And I figured that the bill was probably not going to pass, but it was going to get some attention. It was going to make people start talking about where these folks that should be serving people in our area, where they are actually, what they're actually doing and what they are not doing. And so since then, Cousin It, there has been some reform, and that's something I'm glad you brought it up that I have not followed back up on, but I do know. Question. Let me move. I'm gonna move, guys, because it feels like my internet might be acting up. I'm gonna shift because that's what it feels like. It feels like I'm watching myself on Instagram. Go in slow-mo. So I'm going to get this right so you're not losing me. And if you aren't, then that's fine. But if you are, then we're shifting gears. Okay. we're shifting gears anyway. I'm not going to play this with this internet when we start. I'm doing this. This happens. It feels like it happens all the time when I'm talking about certain topics. Somebody told me it was a conspiracy theory. I don't know. I don't know. But let me see. Question. Can we make progress with orgs? Oh, that was a question. Can we make progress? Yeah. And I don't know that HRV is necessarily a way, but I do know that there is opportunity for connections being made. Uptown Preston said oversight is good, but funding attached to performance by design is impacting the space. It is. Yep. It is. But that's why I think And I mean this, I do mean this. That's precisely why I feel like if 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 we care about our public schools, right? If we really give a shit, if we really care, then we should already be in the position right now of questioning, asking the questions about what is happening in them right now, right? Because what'll happen is it will be in a position where if something happens at the federal government level, right? Let's say something does happen at the federal government level. Like I said, millions of dollars come down from the federal government to our public schools. I believe that we have people that will that really want to privatize our schools, right? Like, and I'm talking about in Norfolk. I believe this. As a matter of fact, I know that there are people that definitely want um, private industry that want to come in and take control of schools. That is not. That's a fact, right? That is a fact. There are people that see, and I do believe, and I can sound like a conspiracy theorist. I do believe that there is a concerted effort to ensure that our school system, um, ensure that our school system is failing. I mean, for some of the things that are happening, quite frankly, I just can't fathom why they are happening. And so I do in my own theory mind think that there has to be an effort to ensure that schools are substandard so that private industry can come in, or that we can just charter every school and do the thing with the thing, right? Like that's my that's my thought process. Um, and I'll ask, what are you all's thoughts on the privatization of school? Like, what do you think? What do you think about if school became privatized? That's a real question. That's a real question. If what if schools became privatized, and what if we were what if we lost the oversight at the federal government and the money, whatever monies was for Department of Education, just got dumped to Virginia and Virginia was left to do the allocating? What would that look like? What would that look like? And give me a thumbs up if you went to public school, or um, if you went to public school or you have little citizens in public school. Give me a thumbs up. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Let's see who out there. I'm giving a thumbs up because I did, and there is no shade to anybody who did not. I assure you. Um, I know that our school systems, our school, the way that we do school has not shifted. Public education's inception was because of private industry, quite frankly, right? The industrial complex wanted to recreate a space to train workers, right? That sitting in the row, right? The way from the design of the classroom, sitting in a row, to the aspect of raising your hand, right? Like raising your hand to speak. Like that was built by industry, and it's not serving us today. It's killing creativity, and I think many of us know this, right? That the classrooms in a lot of spaces and places kill creativity. But let's think about this: if private schools became the norm, right? Because the privatization of schools became the norm because uh, public schools were no longer the foundation of the education system. Um, it it would create a system where families of education, well, let's say this, it would create a system where the quality of education that a child received would depend largely on their family's ability to pay. Think about that. um, and what it can mean for, what in Virginia we should be deeply concerned, and there's several reasons why we should be deeply concerned at the loss of the Department of Education, the consistent failures that we're having. If there's consistent failures and the unchecked accountability of those failures leaves people to say, we got to privatize these schools, Public education just ain't cutting it. Imagine that. Let me tell you this. Inequity would skyrocket. Private schools charge tuition. I'm saying this as a parent who, for the first 3 years of my child's life, my son went to private school for the first pre-K all the way up until kindergarten. My daughter went to private school. And intentionally, I shifted them to public school because I felt like there was some socialization that needed to happen. The reason why I did private school off top is because I did not have time to play with whether or not they were going to be able to read and write. And being in the military, I was like, look, I cannot. What I cannot afford is to be struggling with my hyperactive son, like in third grade, on reading, because I already knew his muchiness was a bit much. I already knew, like, and it was proven to be true, because our first public schools interface was in, I think, Virginia Beach for him, and it at a 10 school, and it was one of the worst experience I had. But then when I got them to a cultured place, right, more people that looked like them, that it was very different, right? But foundationally, it's very different in a very positive way. I'm so grateful. I feel like Coleman Place Elementary, that's the family right there. They wrap their arms around my kids. But think about if I had to continue to pay, if you had to continue to pay, that means that wealthier students would have access to better resources. They would have smaller class sizes. They would have more opportunities. While those of us, and I hate saying low income because I don't think that we've even analyzed the threshold of what it means to be low income or to be middle income. Like, it's shifted, just economically, things have shifted so drastically that means something totally different. Right? Oh, goodness. All these comments, y'all, and I didn't see them. I'm so sorry. It would be disastrous for 4 kids. I believe you, Misha, I'm with it. Privatized schools would lead to higher amounts of abuse seen by the higher am I saying it? Derivation system. So by the higher ed. Went to public school. Beth, that was cousin it. Beth Heiser, 47, said, boom, 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 went to public schools, taught in public schools, have little citizens in public schools, down with it, up, up, up. Said, yes, designed by purpose. Preston Uptown says, we definitely will see legislation this year for education vouchers and tax credits, incentives like we see in North Carolina. Yeah, the charter lobby is increasingly and getting aggressive on the local level. I am here with it, Preston. That is a fact. Only one mama. You guys can't see the comments because they're on Instagram. I would put them up on screen, but I don't. We haven't got the system to work that way yet. Only one mama said, I see it differently. I don't think it destroyed creativity. Now, I did go to school in the 80s and 90s. It might be totally different. Yeah. What I do think is the loss of the arts and the loss of the ability for us to think freely and critically is sort of taken away from us in the educational process. Even in private school, I thought, like, wow, I want my son to think deeper about this. I want him to problem solve as not just a math problem, but like problem solve this, right? Public schools is not designed necessarily to on mass, but not all of them, right? Because that's not the case for all of them. But it is not designed to foster creativity, right? You can just see it in the way the classrooms are set up. It's not designed to what I call it, not necessarily designed for heavy critical thinking. And I think we need more of that. I think we need more of spaces that allow for folks to challenge, right? You're supposed to challenge respectfully, like to learn how to have interpersonal communication, which I think helps build creativity. But yeah, there's this one and only, Amisha, there is this TED Talk called, I think, How Schools Are Killing Creativity. It's super old. It's super, super old. I'm going to look it up because this is why I started saying this and why I saw it a long time ago. And it's why I started doing the things I did with my little citizens, because I was like, oh my God, but I also did not have the idea that I thought public schools were supposed to give my child everything. I also take responsibility as their first teacher, right? Their first educator. I felt like it was super important. So I'm going to put this in the chat. It is a TED Talk by Sir Ken Robbins, right? And it's it's just a good one. It's a good one if you're a TED talker. If you're a TED talker, I would definitely check it out. It shifted my thinking and my level of responsibility with my little citizens education process. So I'm putting that in the chat. Private schools seem to focus on privatization arts, resulting in a rising cost of extracurricular activities. Yeah. Look, I don't think people look. You're not cousin. You have hit on something that I don't think we've even thought about, the extracurricular side of things. Y'all, it costs to do, like, it's a thing. So I'm going to reread what he said for those of us on Facebook. He said, private schools seem to focus on privatizing arts, and the result is a rising cost of extracurricular activities. That's a fact. And I am not here knocking private schools. I certainly understand the idea of wanting to have having a faith that you want your child brought up in, and you want them to be the foundation of their education. I support, wanting to have a place of art. I know that I do support a multimodal idea. Maybe that's not the word. Modal is not the word, but I do support a variety of means to educate, to include homeschool. That is right for some people. I think that I might have did a little bit more homeschooling if I had the opportunity, but my life wasn't set up like that. And in these United States of America, we've said that we will have a free access to quality education should someone want it. That's a part of the promise. It's a part of the promise. So I believe we have to be in a space where we do that. He said these big thumbs, haha. So Arties, I hope I'm saying that right. Art teacher here. I work in Newport News Public School, and it is so important to teach my students about different perspectives of learning. My classroom culture represents that. It also sets a standard. I am with you on that. Is that we have amazing teachers that are setting the standard, right? And we should not be handicapping them from giving our children. I mean, granted, there are, everyone wants to be able to evaluate progress. Everyone wants to be able to evaluate where people are to a standard of what they're doing. That's beautiful. But we do also, we have to stop killing the creativity of our educators in bringing these things to the classroom. And Art Cities, I hope I'm saying this right. It is such a good TED Talk. I agree with you. It's such a good one. It gave me so much perspective. Something else, and I think that Cousin Id hit on this, is that if this does happen, right, say the DOE breaks down, is that we have to be concerned with the limited amount of access. Private schools often have very strict admissions process, and not every student gets accepted. Children with disabilities, the English learners, English language learners, students who need extra support could be left behind. Public schools are designed to serve every child, as should be, right? And we should hold them accountable to that, because that's what they were designed for, to serve every child, no matter their background or their ability. But that safety net that we have, that would disappear wholeheartedly. It would completely disappear. I'll tell you this. I remember when I was stationed in Florida and my son was going to, what's the name of that school? He was going to a private school there, and he wanted to grow his hair out. He wanted locks. We were in Florida. I mean, it was a thing. He wanted locks, and the school said, no, you can't grow locks. I know that happens in public schools policy, but where does that even come from? Like, where did that even come from? There were so many things that he could not do that were culturally affirming in that school. It kind of it made me sad, because like I look at him now and he would have had locks since he was 3, 4, or 5 years old because he wanted it. And now, he ain't got the patience. But think about what that means. What I mean by standards, and that doesn't mean that quality goes down. My children did have an amazing education in their private school. They had an amazing education in their public school. And I think they had a better experience because as a parent, I was able to advocate, because there were situations where I was like, oh my God, I'm about to cry, because if I'm going through this and I have the time, the energy, and the wherewithal to advocate for my child, and I've taught them how to advocate for themselves, what are people that don't have the time? Let's just start there. The time, and the words, and the self-advocacy to do this for theirs. I'm worried, right? So yeah, while only one Misha says, and while vouchers give you choice, the schools have the choice to deny your child precisely. The loss of community and the loss of diversity is a thing that I worry about too, because public schools is one of the few places where students from all walks of life, depending on the zip code, depending on the structure of how that locality has zoned their schools, because that also makes a difference. That's something that we can hold our public schools accountable to now. It gives people of all walks of life to learn with one another, to build relationships across differences. Private schools are oftentimes very segregated, either by race, either by income, or by religion, which would be a continued effect to divide our communities. But I'm saying this again, I am okay with private schools. That is okay. Right? The lens by which I'm coming from is the abolition of the Department of Education and the effect that it could have potentially on the masses. I'm saying this as a person who sent my children to private school, homeschooled the F out of them in the summer. I am telling you, I had curriculum. The summer was my time to be Miss Glass to my students, because they were my kids, my students. As a matter of fact, if anybody is interested, I am, now that I have an 18-year-old and a 13-year-old, I still have tons of stuff. I have pocket charts. I have all posters on all kinds of things that my husband said I now need to get rid of. Even the phases of the moon, things that we would teach, I would go to the teacher store and buy up stuff. I have these critical thinking cubes that when they read something, they can roll the cube. So if you're a parent looking for some free resources, I cannot trash them. They are sitting in my foyer, and I want them to go to a good home. I want them to go to a good home. So my son, please, if you don't make me throw them away. I feel it's crazy. But again, I'm not knocking. This is again from the lens of if there was an abolition of the Department of Education. Art Sadie says, I was working at Yellow Hab as a sub, and making the transition back to public school really opened my eyes. More schools like Yellow Hab, please. Yeah, there's some great things there. There's some great things there. Again, the biggest thing for me is like looking at what the higher cost could be, even if the government had and Mama alluded to this, right? Even if the government provided vouchers or subsidies for private schools, it likely wouldn't cover the full tuitions. Families would have to make up that difference one way or another, putting the education itself, not even quality, right? We ain't even talking about the quality. We're talking about education itself. Oh, hey, hit me up. Yeah. If you're interested, hit me up, send me a message, and I'll get them to you. It would just education in general, not even quality education, would put it out of reach for many and force them into some level of financial strain. Meanwhile, those who are, and it's not even those who are well off, because we do decent, right? Like my husband and I, the military put us in a position where the federal government subsidizing all of our things and being able to be in a place that we're okay too. We might be okay if we had to pay. And would it be tight? Would there be things that I have to strengthen my belt on? Then yes. But we would not be able to afford a premium option. And what does that do to the educate foundationally to the education of our students? It just widens that gap. And so I think about what we can do, right? Like that's where my head is what can we do? One and only Misha says, I would love to use them in or after. Yes, please, but hit me up. Because I got it's not even just them, it's so much stuff. And I also plugging this in there. I have and I don't consider it a problem, but I really love children's books. I spent a lot of times. If you want me to come read to your class, I'll come read to your class. I love doing that if I have the bandwidth, but I have so many children's books. It's dumb. I'm looking over here at a row. I don't want to get rid of them. Like I actually want to cry thinking about having to purge my children's books. I'm getting anxious. I need space though. So I'm downsizing. So if you're interested, I'll start making some recommendations. Maybe I'll do a live just going through all the products that I have and seeing who wants what. Uptown Preston says that we also have to take into account the challenge for our children to assimilate into private school culture, even the challenges that they may face from other kids that come from insensitive homes. Yeah, that's real. That there can be assimilating. Like I said, my son, the school he went to, I feel like anything that was culturally affirming was not in the rules. But let's say this, right? While we worry about the abolition of private schools, let's talk about the state of them right now. What's happening in our private schools? I mean, what's happening in our public schools? What's happening in your public schools in your backyard? What are you advocating for or against in your backyard? Because that's the, what do you call it? Because we still have the Department of Education and we still have problems. I want you to put this in your mind that all politics are local. All politics are local. And if we are putting our hearts and our fears and our worries into what's happening 3 steps above, which it's super important to do, right? This is why hopefully we have electeds that are in the place and advocates that are in the place to spend time in DC, to spend time there being helping us advocate for the right things. We here on the ground have to consider what accountability do we need at the local level? What accountability do we need at the state level already right now to have quality public schools? Right? I don't think that there's a perfect system, but I think that there's a better system. So while we just had this talk about the abolition of the Department of Education, consider what's happening in your backyard. Like I said, Norfolk Public Schools is under a DOJ investigation, and I think they should be. There are some really amazing things coming out of Norfolk Public Schools. Really amazing people, really amazing scholars. There's also some people being disserviced or not serviced at all. And when you don't have willing partners, it makes a difference. And I wish I had a willing partner in the administration of Norfolk Public Schools because we care loudly in my office and in my community. I am hopeful for the new school board. I am hopeful for some level of accountability from a place of truth and love for our students. But think about that. What's happening right now? What are we doing? What aren't we doing? Mr. Realty says, I teach civics. Go you. Yeah. Mr. Reality. I said Realty. Mr. Reality 11. I teach civics at Northside Middle School. Would love for you to come. Just say the word. I already know how to teach to your SOL standards, right? I can do the 3 branches of government if you haven't already. I've already got the curriculum together. Y'all, that's my jam. I'll come to any school and talk about civics. I have 2 presentations, one on the 3 branches of government and one just on the lived experience of the process, like what I actually do. And I can bring artifacts, right? So a budget book and things like that for the students to see, touch, hold, and all that good stuff. You just say the word. If you reach out to my office, I'm going to put my email here. And we'll get a date knowing that I'm getting ready to go to session. And when I come back, even if you've already passed the civics portion of your curriculum, I'm here for it because it'll give you a break. And we can weave other things on in and if you want. So let me know. I've done it before. It's my jam. I love it. Virginia.gov.gov. All right. Hold on. I'm checking the comments. I've been here all day. Okay. So Brian Daniel said, if the government is contributing, then it could be education that they determine. Hold on. Let me put this out loud. He says, and if the government is contributing, then it would be education that they determine that they want to teach. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, Brian Daniel. And I think I said this the other day, that history belongs to those who can pay for it. Like remembering that textbooks are built by certain people. They're created by people. They're created by humans. What's determined to go in those textbooks are determined by humans. And if you learned anything this past little bit, if you learned anything, it's that at the state level and at the local level, there's power. If we have power to help sway what is or is not taught right in our backyard. So if the government is contributing, then it would, I'm hoping I'm saying this, then it would be education that they determine what they want to teach. Yeah, you are absolutely right. But that's what's the quiet part, is that we have the opportunity to be, we have the opportunity to be so loudly. Good morning. Good morning, Ms. Jan. Senior is aging gracefully. Good morning. So interesting. Thank you for caring. I stand with you. Reference the betterment of our new school board. Yeah, man. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, trying to stay hopeful, with all the things. I'm excited for folks newly elected and those that there is a partnership among all of our board members for the betterment of our schools. I'm with you. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Humans with agendas, humans with biases, for sure. For sure. So what now what? Right? So what now what? I'm trying to get to my, there it is. Nope, that's not it. So what now what? What can we do? And it's not even a prevention of the scenario, because we just don't know what's going to happen. Oh, I didn't hit send on this. Oh, sorry, that's going to be time late. That TED Talk was from earlier that I mentioned. Let me get this last comment in so I can it says, how amazing would it be how amazing would it have been to, when I was a young person, to have someone like, oh, Jackie, come to my classroom with your energy, your joy and smart. It would be like a fire. So, okay, can I tell you something about this? I went to this school, and it was a private school that invited me. Honestly, that was the first school. You got me tearing up. This young girl, the entire class wrote me letters. And I believe it's Miss Masterman, was the class over at Norfolk Christian Academy. I can't remember. She brought me in to come to teach the class, and they wrote me letters afterwards. And this girl wrote a letter and was like, I didn't know, one, girls could do this. 2, that you can have piercings, because she saw my nose piercing, and 3, that you can wear sneakers. And I was just like, yes, 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 yes. All those things. You can do all those things and be in government. It just felt so good. It was like, I didn't, realize I was getting that informal inspection, but I was, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. And I was just like, I can't take this. Little citizens are the best. Uptown Press, and I'm going to say it again, humans with agendas and biases. That's real. Again, so what now what? Because I've held y'all for 40 something minutes, and it's a long time. What it means for us now is that there has to be a level of investment, accountability for the investments that we make in public schools, ensuring that they're funded, right? And funding is not going to solve all of our problems, because I've given funding. I'm going to say this in Navy wise, like we sometimes give funding to substandard leadership, and that funding makes no difference for those that we're trying to affect. Right. So it's funding, and it's fundamental leadership that cares for the district or for the department in a way that progresses and uses those funds wisely. It's about teachers, it's about resources to compete, right? Because we are at a point where we're competing. And again, I mean, no shade to private institutions, as my children went to private school. I don't, but we are competing at this point. You've got a whole swath, whole communities that in Norfolk, you have whole areas where none of the children that live around the school go to school. They go to a private school. And that is not to knock their parents. That's just to say is that they have deemed specific schools not quality, or they want something different for their kids. I do remember a gentleman, the first school board that I went to, this guy, it was when Southside STEM Academy had only been open for a year. This gentleman's dad advocating for his son, and what had happened was he went to the meeting that the parent meeting for the school opening up, and it was a mixed, diverse crowd. Southside STEM Academy is on the other side. It's on the south side of the city, the Berkeley, Compostela area, and he said the parents asked, "Are the neighborhood kids going to go to this school?" Someone asked. And when the principal replied yes, the majority of the white parents got up and walked out. They just got up and walked out. Their kids are not going to go to Southside STEM Academy because the neighborhood kids go to that school. And I was like, and you can tell it broke that dad's heart, because they understand that buy-in from a multicultural, economic standpoint is really something that depends on the success of that school. So I need all kinds of people to buy in. If it just becomes a Black school, then it has a likelihood of being neglected. He is not wrong. History has told us that, and that too is unfortunate, and that like sears on my heart. These people just getting up and walking out, and you're sitting there now like, what's going to happen to this school? I thought this was going to be a great thing. So we have to understand that investment is not just in dollars, but it's in people. It is in quality educators. It is quality administration. It's in quality communities, because what happens in the community comes to the school. What happens in the school comes into the community. And we've got to come from a place of power. That's where we are very powerful as a collective. The last thing is advocating for fair policies. That's real, right? Like the reality is that opposing measures that divert funds to private schools is widely considered the thing, like vouchers and tax breaks. It's widely considered the thing, but right, wherever you stand on that, whether you're against vouchers or tax breaks, wherever you stand on that, let us remember though what it looks like for our system to have fair policies that make our public schools quality schools. Does that make sense? Is that you can't just be like, I don't want y'all taking y'all kids nowhere, and then we are not having a high level of accountability to ensure that the way our schools are designed, the way that they are operating, are competitive, quite frankly, competitive. So what do? Do you know who's on your school board? That's my question, right? While I am a state representative, I am not the school board. Those are the policymakers designed or elected in that position to determine the policy making behind schools, right? Are they serving you? We just had a school board election. That's why, Seniors Agent Gracely just said, you know what? I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful too. I'm hopeful too. So what does that mean? And that is an Okay. I know I probably lost everybody. I probably lost everybody at this point. Super weird. Don't know what happened. Internet went out, but all I say is that yeah, we have some explaining to do. We have some learning to do, and hopefully we are able to do it together, right? So until next time, I am Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy Vet Certified Doer, and the Laced Up Legislator for the House of Delegates, 93rd District. Honored to serve. Good to see you, shipmate. Be well.